Now, senior officials and diplomats from Asia, Africa, and the Pacific are in Brussels, where the EU is hosting its fourth Indo-Pacific Forum, aimed at strengthening partnerships beyond Europe. Now, with neither the US nor China on the guest list, the EU says the summit is about making its case as a trusted and reliable partner. On trade, the bloc is pushing for stronger economic ties and a revival of trade negotiations with countries such as India and Indonesia. But questions remain over Europe's credibility, with critics pointing to double standards on issues such as Gaza and doubts about whether the talks will deliver concrete outcomes. And for more on this, Will Denslow is covering this story for CNA Live in Brussels. Will, this meeting coming as the EU seeking wider backing for its stance in the war in Ukraine. How is Brussels using this forum to enlist support from Indo-Pacific partners?
Well, Angela, more than 60 nations are represented here at this forum across 4 continents and 2 hemispheres. But the message we've heard from the European Union's top diplomat and Foreign Affairs Chief, Kaja Kallas, is that there are a number of shared challenges that the sides need to address and should address together. That was a point reiterated by Germany's foreign minister, stating that with increased competition between the world's largest powers, there is a threat to the world order and the international rules-based order. He said because of that, it's increasingly imperative for more of these partnerships, strategic cooperation going forward. High Representative Kallas also suggested and claimed that China, as well as Russia, were seeking to change the global order when it comes to economics as well as security, imploring greater cooperation. Now, when it comes to these shared threats, not only when it comes to directly from Russia and the EU, of course, again, urging members of the Indo-Pacific to do more when it comes to support for Ukraine, but also suggesting there are these shared security concerns, such as hybrid attacks, cyber attacks, as well as attacks to critical infrastructure under the water as well, undersea cables, for example. That's why Kallas has suggested a new initiative there. So plenty of cooperation, and that message that there's increased need for these kinds of geopolitical strategic alliances at a time where the rules-based order, according to officials here, is under threat.
Yeah, and Will, beyond the politics, what are the main economic goals then for the EU here, especially when it comes to trade and investment in the region?
Well, the message from many here is that there's plenty of opportunity. We heard from Indonesia's representative saying that at this time multilateralism is under threat, and that is why, according to the representative here, there was more of a need for regionalism and regional cooperation between blocs. That is why there were suggestions of deepening economic ties between the likes of ASEAN and the European Union going forward, and more Indo-Pacific partnerships as well. We've seen the EU push in a number of instances bilateral free trade agreements. As you mentioned, the likes of India, that's very much close to being in the works. We understand even potentially by the end of this year, Indonesia is a free trade agreement that's been done this year. A digital cooperation agreement with Singapore signed back in the spring as well. So there are certainly hopes from some at this forum to deepen those trade ties. The message from Kaja Kallas again